Yesterday, Robin Williams tragically and shockingly took his own life. We've lost a number of well-known entertainers recently to extraordinary circumstances before their time. But for some reason, this one really hurt. Even President Obama released a statement talking about what a wonderful person Robin Williams had been and how much joy he'd brought so many people. And I think the key here is the discrepancy between someone who seemed so happy and brought so much joy and clearly the very dark demise that they met at their own hand. And I think, and obviously that it's so sudden. It just, nobody even knew he was having these problems. We did know that he had some problems, though. Officially, they're saying he's a victim of depression, which I 100% believe that he is. But there are other factors at play here. For instance, he had substantial financial problems. For instance, you might have noticed several interviews that he did right before The Crazy Ones launched on CBS, and people were like, well, why are you coming back to television? And he very openly said, because I need the money, because I'm on my third wife, I have 2 divorces, and I have to pay a lot of alimony. I have tremendous bills, and I have to downsize even with this steady paycheck gig that I'm taking on. I have to sell houses, etc. And so while some of you might not feel that's very sympathetic, he has to sell his bigger house. It's a very dark place to be in, especially when you don't know how much you have to downsize. And then, of course, his show was canceled, The Crazy Ones, the steady paycheck that he needed so badly, in May. And in this very July, he ended up having to go back into rehab. So you see almost a perfect storm of horrible events. And then, of course, you throw into the mix substance abuse, which he's also been very public about. Now, Robin Williams' family said, we want you to focus not on his death, but his life. Now, while I think there are some important things to take away from his death, let's start with his life to honor their wishes, and because he led such an extraordinary one. If you watch Morning Movie News, you'll note that I've been recently watching Robin Williams films. With the news of Mrs Doubtfire 2 being in the works, I wanted to check out the original Mrs Doubtfire again, a film that is so beloved even today that that's why they wanted to make a sequel. It's still so popular because it touches so many people, and it's a very sophisticated film. And I was blown away by how good it was. I'd forgotten just how good it was. I think because, Robin Williams was in a low point in his career recently. We forget, and we shouldn't forget, just what a fantastic entertainer, and not just entertainer, but actor and performer that he was. I also watched Good Morning Vietnam as a result of watching Mrs. Doubtfire, and I was equally impressed. These films were not just funny. They didn't just have heart, but they were poignant, and that is Robin Williams in a nutshell. He was funny, he was loving, and he was smart. And he did a wonderful amount of charity work as well, which I'm glad is also being highlighted in the coverage of his death. And also I would ask you down below in the comments to write about your favorite Robin Williams roles. Good luck picking just one. There's Dead Poets Society, there's his voice, of course, is the genie in Aladdin, The Fisher King, so many fantastic performances. Really, an admirable, enviable career. But I did say that there were some things that I thought we could take away from his death, and I hope that people do pay attention to these elements. Now, of course, there's the substance abuse problem, which we're all aware of, and we've tragically been reminded of it so often recently, and how dangerous the path of drugs and alcohol is. And I hope that these deaths are red flags to anyone who is flirting with such a lifestyle. But the other 2 things I want to discuss are depression, which I'll finish with because it's obviously the bigger message. But then also I wanted to talk just briefly about the rights of husbands. Recently, I think that fathers have been getting a lot of attention as being owed rights. Often the courts favor the mother in a divorce, and a lot of fathers, I think, very admirably, have been campaigning for the rights of fathers, that they love their children just as much just because they didn't give birth to them. And that's really made a lot of progress. However, I do think that maybe some progress needs to be made in looking out for the rights of husbands. There's this antiquated idea that, oh, well, they're the bread earners. They must be the ones who wanted the divorce. It must be their fault. What woman in her right mind would want a divorce from her, not only from her husband, her man, or her meal ticket. So the husband must pay. The husband must give up his money. And I'm sure that, these ex-wives of Robin Williams were owed some alimony. He had some responsibility. Also, I know that his second wife, for instance, produced a lot of his films, so she is owed some of that, although she should have been pulling down a salary herself, right? But often, when you're with someone while they're building their career, if you later get divorced, it's argued that you're partially responsible for that success, so you deserve a piece of the pie. But when I say rights about husbands, I can't imagine that Robin Williams' two ex-wives wanted to drive him to this point, that he was so concerned about money that he would go to such dark places. I'm sure there were other instances and other factors that played into his depression, but clearly money was a big one. And, it's one thing, to want your cut, but then there's the infamous pound of flesh argument. You want it, you feel you're owed it, the law might say it's all right, but it will kill the person you take it from. Here, quite literally. So I just hope that this reminds a lot of anyone who's getting a divorce that they might be angry and they might feel wronged and they might want to get their revenge, but just considering what you're leaving in your wake and that person must continue to function. So I think that that's a really important part of this discussion, that he was bled to death by financial problems from his divorces. And I'm sure maybe there were other bad money decisions that someone could argue, but still, divorce is a factor. All right, let's move on to the final thing, depression. Depression is a horrible, horrible disease, and it's very easy to catch. And if you have clinical depression, if you have, like really intense depression, obviously you need to go and seek out help. There's medicine that you can take, and you need to be monitored. Somebody needs to be watching you, because you can spiral out of control, as I believe Robin Williams most likely did. So that's one aspect. But the thing is that everybody suffers from depression. Being an adult is very, very hard. If you're still, a kid in school, you can't even imagine how difficult being an adult is. I'm sure think you have some idea, but you don't, because there are things that you're not even aware of that come into play when you're an adult. There are factors at every level: personal, professional, dealing with society. It's really hard. It is a battle for survival in many ways. And I think that's at every level, not just someone who has a high-stakes career like Robin Williams in the entertainment business, but everybody fights depression. Just keeping things fresh, not feeling you're stuck in a monotony. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And so I want to give some advice to anyone who finds himself having to deal with dark times, as we all do, because I think this is very helpful. It helps me, and I've given this advice to people in my own life who I also feel could benefit from it. And that's that you need to find the joy. I think a lot of people are under the assumption that the joy will come to them. They're owed joy. You just have to wait. But just like anything in life, if you want it, you have to go out and get it. And with joy, I would also say, focus on the little things. I think another problem is not only do people expect joy to come to them, but they only value the big wins, the big joys, the milestones in life. And that's not going to get you through the day. That's not going to get you through the week. That's not going to get you through a difficult situation. Even just feeling down. What gets you through that are the small joys. Don't underestimate how powerful those can be. Take a walk home if it's a nice evening after work. Take a walk anytime during the day, just to soak in the world and being alive. Take a long lunch. Find out what gives you joy, just be it a movie, watching movies, a good television show, a good book, even sometimes, the newspaper. I really love every week reading my New York Magazine. Every Monday I download it on my iPad, and you know what? It's a little thing, but it gives me such joy, and it's also something for me to look forward to. So you need to build those things into your life. The small joys that you know are going to come on a regular basis, and they're going to just for a minute. It could be just for a split second. Even you just look out and you see the sky on a nice summer, sunset, and you go, "Isn't that just beautiful? Aren't I so lucky to be here?" Just make sure you do that. Make sure the old saying, "Stop and smell the roses." It's so true. You don't need to own the whole garden. You don't need to design the garden. You don't need to be the one to lay claim for the garden. Just enjoy the atmosphere and the scent. All right, so please share your thoughts down below about Robin Williams and your own thoughts about these things that he had to deal with, and also as his family asked, his life and his work. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know a lot of you really, I really appreciated your tweets. You wanted to discuss this to really get it through your system, and I hope this video, I hope this video helped. I hope that advice is helpful. All right, thanks, bye.